but yeah, since Rings of Power uh, ended, I just haven't. Amazon said when the show ended, they were like, "Oh, get ready for some news about renewal or something like that." It was like on Twitter. There's
Oh yeah.
some of that going on, and it just the news on that disappeared. Like they didn't talk about it. There was no announcement, and so now we're kind of waiting around to see what's going to happen. I think it's really interesting that
Dude,
that's the
this will
case.
have to be its last season if it gets renewed.
I guess so, right? I mean, it's the momentum for it is. I mean, it died before this season really even came out, right? I mean, the fanfare, all that stuff. We had talked about this before, but like none of that is none of that really surrounded season two. They didn't even attempt to try to like lie to us about
Yeah,
any of that stuff. So you have to imagine that that's the case. That it's lost so much steam that they can't afford to do 5 seasons.
yeah.
To just have this dead on arrival thing for the next 3 seasons. So what, the next 6 years or something that they've got to keep
No
developing all
man.
of this. And you have to imagine that they'll like I'm pretty sure we had mentioned this before too, but like they bled some cast members from season 1 to season 2. You have to imagine if they put out a third season, it's going to happen again. That people just
Yep.
aren't going to want to come back. They might have to kill people off screen again.
Dude, the
Um,
freaking the Amazon Prime Rings of Power account today it posted something like from season two, like some footage. It only had like 10,000 impressions. I don't know if it was from
mm.
today or yesterday, but whenever I saw it, it didn't have that many impressions, not that much engagement. I mean, it's just uh, there was nothing there for that show after season one,
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
and
season
this
one.
just kind of confirmed it.
Season one was it.
Yep.
I mean, as far as that the height of that show, and most of it was curiosity, anger, or stupidity.
Yep.
That's pretty much what everyone was going into Rings of Power looking at, and now we're sort of we're removed from it, and some of that curiosity is there, a tiny bit of the stupidity is there, but nobody's even like morbidly curious about season two, and you're not going to have any of the normies coming back to watch season two really. Because everyone's either told them like don't waste your time, or they watch season one and they go, nah, I don't need to watch anymore.
Yeah. Right.
It's not that good. Um, so yeah, I'd be curious to know if it gets renewed. I mean, I'm sure we'll hear something eventually, but it is very telling that we haven't seen anything yet.
It is.
Um, if the show was as popular as they wanted us to believe that it was,
It would have been renewed
it would have
before,
maybe even
way
before the
before the
season.
season was over.
Or
It
at
would have been
minimum, they
renewed.
would have finished the last episode and said congratulations on another successful season. We're renewing you for season three. So
Yeah, because the House of Dragon it got approved before season two even
yeah, well, I mean,
launched.
they have to since they decided to cut 2 of the episodes from this season to
Yeah.
put
Well,
over onto the next one. Still stupid. I can't believe they did that.
my point still stands.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I watched 2 movies on Halloween.
Ooh.
I watched The Thing, which I hadn't seen in a really long time, and I watched Train to Busan as well
Oh yeah.
because I bought that on 4K.
I had thought about watching that the other day, Saturday night, I think.
Yeah, it looks the 4K is really nice. Movie holds up. It's still really really good. Definitely one of the best zombie movies out there.
My
I
favorite zombie movie is 28. Is it Days Later? I don't
28
know if it's the
Days,
first one or the second one
Days
that
or
I like more.
Weeks.
Yeah,
Um,
probably the first one.
yeah, I like both of them. I would say that for me that one's up there as well.
No, it's got to be Train to Busan. I think I enjoyed that better. I think you're right.
I think
It's hard. I'd have to watch them both back to back to get a good feel for it, you know?
yeah, I best of all time would be a tough one. I'd have to go back and rewatch some of the classics, and just kind of go through some things and be like, oh yeah, maybe it's that one. I'd have to do a little more like digging into all of the different zombie movies that have come out over the years. But Train to Busan's just it's really good, and it's a pretty easy watch. Like, it's just enjoyable.
Hmm.
It's got a pretty sad ending, but at the same time, I like what they did with it.
Oh
Um,
yeah, but it's an ending that makes sense. It's not
yeah,
trying to hit an emotional beat just to have the emotional beat. It flows with the story.
yeah, it is, and I think for the main character, the way that the story concludes is really good. And it's a great without trying to give too many spoilers for it. I just like that the ending feels earned,
Hmm.
and the way that they decided to handle it, it's both tragic but also um, sort of I don't want to say uplifting. I don't.
Cathartic.
Yeah, nah, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard for me to kind of put it into words without digging too deep into it. But there's something about the way that the movie is tragic, because man, especially the last act of the movie. There's a specific thing that happens while they're still on the first train, and then like everything from that moment is sort of just like the downward spiral
Yeah.
for the cast of characters, and it's just like one thing after the other. But like the movie's, it's not always like I think played correctly in your typical zombie movies, but the movie's got a lot of like sacrifice is a theme in it. And sometimes it's like sacrificing for the ones that you love, or just different things like that. And I like that, and you don't always see that. But it's like people decided to like give up their lives to like save other people, or
Hmm.
in one case, there's a great moment in it where a character does something to sort of like enact vengeance on another group of people, and the whole movie is just like it's just got like all these great little like moments throughout. And I just always really liked it, so highly recommended. The Thing as well, if you can handle it, man. For a movie that came out in 1982, it still holds up, man. It's that movie. It's an interesting one to discuss, as far as like the themes in it, and like what the different characters do, and this idea of like distrust, and um, different things like that. Because no, you don't know. It's like, oh, is this the evil shape-shifting alien, or is this actually a real human? And the things that people do, when they're kind of like backed into a corner and they don't know who to trust. Like, it's all really cool. Like, I love stuff like that, more so than just sort of feel like you're like splatterfest type movies.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, I have like one or two of those that I really like, but I definitely prefer when they're doing more with the material. You know,
Hmm.
it's not just um, you know evil monster kills like civilians or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're doing more
There's
with
depth
it.
to it.
Yeah, but I also, I mean, I think it came out in '85, or '88, I don't remember, but the Blob from the '80s is really
Oh yeah.
good. And a lot, I have reasons for why I like that stuff. I mean, a lot of it, it's the practical effects that they used, and some of those are just kind of like classic stories of like people trying to survive something like that. I just always like that stuff. It's fun. Um, and then there's a movie called You're Next that I really like. That's a bit of a turn on sort of the if you've ever seen anything like The Strangers, or it's like sort of the home invasion story.
Yep.
But it sort of gets turned on its head about halfway through the movie, and I think the movie does a really good job of like setting it up without making you realize exactly what's gonna happen. And it was a time when you had, female protagonists that weren't giant Mary Sues. They still weren't writing them like that. Like, they were still flawed and make mistakes, and I just miss that. I miss when writers could like hold back, and what I mean by that is that they just weren't doing these hyper like personal fantasies about these things that they're in, and they were actually writing about characters.
Like The Handmaid's Tale in real life,
bro. Yeah, it's stuff like that. That I do wish that
we're living it, David, right now.
That they could, that they could just calm down a little bit on the, people want to call them like character inserts or whatever the case may be, which some of that definitely is real. But yeah, just, what if we did a story about this, and this was your character, and you create the things that they want and the feelings that they have, and all that kind of stuff is really cool. And they even there was a movie that came out, another horror movie that came out not too long ago called is it Ready or Not? No, sorry, I'm getting some of them confused. There's been quite a few of them, but the someone will know what I'm talking about. But the main character, she's marrying into this like family that owns. They're like a board game tycoon family, and then like they have this tradition that they play with the fiance. I think it's before the wedding. They play or maybe no, maybe it's the night of the wedding. It's like they play this game, and it's like it's just tradition. Like you're part of our family, and so the bride has to choose the game that they play. And the catch is that there's one game in there where they basically hunt the bride down, and
that's hilarious.
You don't know why, but it gets revealed at the end of the movie, and it's just kind of a fun, like interesting twist to the end of that, which I won't ruin. I feel like I should look up the name of that movie, but I think it's Ready or Not. Regardless, it's quite good. It's got Samara Weaving in it. She's pretty good in it, and she hasn't been in much recently, so I don't know. She gets killed in like the most recent Scream movie, just like right at the beginning. Which, man, talk about a franchise I think finally needs to just. They keep making these movies, man, and they keep making money.
I know.
I'm not sure because like. I'm not going. I'm always. For a long time. I don't really care at this point because it's getting completely oversaturated as far as I'm concerned. I don't even know why they made a fourth one, let alone like a sixth or seventh one, whatever they're on now. But yeah, she's like in the beginning of that randomly, and I was like, oh, is she in this? And then she dies. I was like, oh, okay. And we had talked about it a while ago, dude, but that's that movie, the two main actresses, so Jenna Ortega and then the girl who plays her sister in it. The girl who plays her sister had like some comments about Palestine a couple months ago.
Oh, yeah.
And they fired her off of the next Scream movie. And then Jenna Ortega quit. Jenna Ortega quit over it.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Granted, unless it was something despicable.
I don't think it was. I mean, from the article I remember, it was kind of just like your typical take that everybody has, about it, and it's not very like nuanced or anything. But I think that was why they got or why she got fired, and then Ortega was just like, yeah, I'm gonna quit.
Yeah. I don't really understand the love about that franchise anyway.
So I really like the first one. It's kind of a special movie because of like it was, it's
Is it the whole just supposed to be like a parody horror movie?
A bit, like yeah. It's just
a comedic horror movie.
Kind of. It's poking fun at the slasher films that came before it, but it's still semi-serious. So it's kind of a half and half, you know what I mean? And then the second one is roughly the same thing, and they just kind of, it's the diminishing returns, essentially.
Right.
yeah, like the first one I think is really like a classic, and the other ones like you can kind of do without for the most part because they just kind of keep doing it. Nothing really changes. But yeah, I do like the first one. But yeah, as far as like it still being as like like the idea of those movies still being popular, it doesn't make sense to me. That I guess it's because they're pretty easy to make, so they're pretty cheap, you know.
Right.
And maybe they were happy Ortega was leaving because she probably wanted too much money anyway because she's become so popular.
Oh yeah, you're probably
Um,
right about that.
so it's like, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll just all these other people will do it for pennies. I'm sure there's some other like quote unquote politics going on with stuff like that getting made where it's like your lead actress is all of a sudden really popular and like, oh no, like we can't like we can't afford her to pay her this much. So they were probably happy that she decided to dip out. Anyway, I'm just still grinding through some movies this year. There's that new M Night movie is on HBO Max. You know what I'm talking about? The Trapped. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
So I'm gonna watch that eventually, but that's another one of those creators that anytime he does stuff now, I sort of have to just like I have to kind of prepare to watch whatever he's gonna put out because it's just like you never know where it's gonna go. like, and people have been like, "Oh, it's actually like a comedy or something," and I'm like, "Oh, really?" like, I guess it's weird. I guess I'm still expecting M Night to be putting out like quote unquote serious dramas,
Oh yeah.
and then like they end up being way too silly, or like the premises don't work, or it's like the way that it's directed. I'm not 100% sure, but that's on there, so I do want to check that out and see what he ended up doing with that. Because some of the other stuff he put out. I think he was the one that put out this movie about like the four horsemen of the apocalypse or whatever.
Oh, was it
About
now?
a cat. Yeah, there's like a knock at the door. Do you remember that? It came out a couple of years ago, I think. Kind of went unnoticed. But it's like this gay couple and their daughter, and they're in a house, and then these four individuals come to the house. And it's got like Batista in it, and the guy that played
Oh yeah,
Ron
that
Weasley.
yeah.
And
Checked them out.
it was terrible. It was so boring. Um, and there's no like in a movie like that, you were almost expecting him to have something to say, and there's just like not. The plot kind of just happens, and then they save the world, and that's it. And it doesn't really go much of anywhere. Like it's not worth watching at all. It was pretty terrible, honestly.
I've heard bad things about it. Of
Yeah,
course, it's not a movie that's up my alley as far as something.
yeah. I honestly I don't even remember if that was an M Night feature. It's one of the worst things. I think it's up. It's definitely up there with like Avatar. Not as bad. I don't think, but still. Let's see. A knock at the door. This is the last thing, and then wait. There's no way this came out in 2016. Oh, the book came out in 2016? No, that's not it. Let's see here. M. Night Shyamalan.
He kind of fizzled out after. What was that movie that he fizzled out with? I mean, he was the one that did Signs, didn't he?
Yeah, so he did Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense, and that's what kind of launched him. And then I think, Knock at the Cabin. That's what it was called. Close enough. He did The Village, which I think he was still sort of in that area where people were like, "Oh yeah, Village is pretty good," but then a lot of people were like, "That movie was stupid." Like that was just dumb. And then he did Lady in the Water, which I think very much solidified for a lot of people that he didn't know what he was doing. And then he did this movie called Devil, which is terrible. The one of the plot points in that movie, Joseph, if I remember this correctly, I honestly should go back and find this because I am mostly sure I'm correct about this. There's a security guard in the movie, right? It's these three people trapped in
Right.
an elevator, and one of them's the devil. And people, or no, it's more than three people, but there's a certain, it's like maybe five people trapped in an elevator, something like that. And the lights keep going out every once in a while, and someone's dying. And so the people in the elevator trying to figure out who's causing it for whatever reason, like they can stop, the devil or whatever. And this security guard is like watching it, and at one point he's trying to convince someone that like the devil's real, and he like takes either I don't know why I want to tell you he takes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and does this, but he like flips the sandwich and it lands on like the jelly side or something, and he goes, "See, every time the devil's around, things are weird. That should have never landed on that side." Or he has this like this unbelievably stupid explanation for why he's right about like the devil being in their building and being in this elevator with all these people. I need to look that up. I need to try to remember to look that up because it's really, really dumb. Yeah, and so he did do this this Knock at the Cabin last year. It's definitely one of the worst movies he's ever done. It's got like a 68 on Rotten Tomatoes, and it should be way lower than that.
I imagine.
What were you saying?
Did he also do that movie Old
Yeah, he did.
by chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that steaming pile of garbage.
Yeah, that one was one that I was like, I'm just not even interested. Nothing about it really made me go, I should watch those.
Yeah.
Well,
That's how the other movies were for me. But I did watch that one, and I'm like, yeah, I won't ever get that time back in my life.
oh right.
It
Well,
wasn't like absolutely horrible or anything like that, but it was like, I should have known better.
well, Joseph, before we get into talking about Penguin and professional critics, if you will, why don't you tell the lovely people who are either watching us live or who download our podcasts every week how they can support the show?
Yes, I would love to. So we utilize the value for value system here, which means you can donate to us if you think you're getting value from our podcast in the form of your time, talent, and treasure. And if you can't afford to donate to political candidates, and you're like, you know what, I think my money would be better used elsewhere than sending money to people who don't know you, or who maybe aren't offering you the value that we are. Well, you can send it our way. But yeah, it's just a way for us to mainly just to build a community of producers, which you guys are. We could call y'all our producers, not our fans or audience or listeners or anything like that. It's a way for us to build that and not have to rely on YouTube, any ad revenue, any advertising, and any encroachment really on our speech.
Yeah.
And we can provide you with content that hopefully you enjoy.
So yeah, you can find all of those links on any of our.
It's the wave of the future, man.
Yeah.
It really is, though, on a for real sense.
It's great.
I think it's just an authentic way to build something that you can be part of, and we're not doing Patreon. We're not doing any.
Yeah.
Extra work on that end well, if you pay this much, then you'll get this. I know there are a lot of people who like that model, but for us, it's more of if you think that our content is valuable to you, that it enriches you, entertains you, and you think that's worth a night out at the movies, a night at the value menu at Taco Bell, whatever, then you can give that to us in return in the form of your time, talent, or treasure.
Yep.
Treasure being money, your time and talent. Any skills or potentially anything you want to send us.
Yeah, and I say it all the time. I don't want to shill toasters to people or like, I don't care about Raid Shadow Legends. So like, why would I take money from those people to tell you to play it?
Well, I think too, it's also obviously it is a way that we could build money faster than value for value, but I
Potentially.
also, yeah, potentially, right? Not guaranteed, but it is the common model used. But at the same time, I don't want to be inauthentic in selling y'all something
No.
or promoting something just because somebody gives us money. Even if we tested it, like we talk about stuff from time to time that we like anyway. Like I talk about
Yeah.
Nixie freaking sparkling water, and they could hate me for all I care. That's fine. They make fantastic sparkling water.
Yeah.
They probably would hate me.
Well, and I don't do ourselves any favors with some of the stuff that we talk about. And I prefer it that way because like I just don't want us to find ourselves in a position where the credibility of the things that we're talking about, whether you agree with us or disagree with us, it's not because someone gave us like access or whatever, you
Yep.
know. Um, and not that most of them would.
But we're not talking bad about something or positive about something to gain access to anywhere or anything. And if we go on anybody else's
Yeah,
podcast or anywhere else, we say the same stuff we say here.
yeah. Um, yeah, just definitely. I don't think there's a show that another show of anyone we know that we've been on where there hasn't been at least some disagreements.
Yeah.
Which is
To
fine.
put lightly.
Yeah. I'm actually I want to talk to we should get a hold of Technically Mexican when Arcane season 2 comes out. See, actually need to see if he's talking about it cuz I'd love to go on at least for
I think he said
one
on
of
his
those.
last that he liked The Last Jedi better than season 1 Arcane.
Bro, that's crazy. That's
I'm joking.
if
I'm
that
joking.
was true, that would be an absolutely like out of pocket statement.
Yeah. I wasn't considering ending our relationship, but now that you mention
Just
it,
leave the show. Bruh, I can't even help you here. Um but yeah, so yeah, we just we love doing what we're doing. The value for value has taken care of the few expenses that we have right now for the show. Um, so mostly for the podcasting side and keeping that running because YouTube is practically free as far as like uploading is concerned. So we don't really have
yeah,
to worry about that. But editing software, that whole deal. So yeah, thank you guys for everybody who has supported the show. I know John Burke is still donating, I think monthly. So really appreciate that.
yeah, I think
And
he's doing $1,000 a month.
I wish, bro, dude, that would be crazy. Um, probably would have been able to buy a new computer
That
by
was my whole
now.
push to be like, hey, if everybody did $1.50 a month, if everybody did $1.50 a month, and we had
Yeah.
25,000 subs, that'd be 25,000. A bit more than that, but after
Sure.
all the processing fees and stuff, that'd
And
be 25,000 a month.
yeah, so thank you guys for doing that. We really do appreciate it, and in any way that you are able to support the show, whatever that looks like. We know times are a little bit hard now, so
Yeah, we did.
everything's tight. All right.
But I don't care. Donate anyway.
uh, well,
If you're
Joseph,
thinking about, can I afford groceries or should I donate to Underground? Always donate to that.
I guess we need to start talking about Penguin.
The
Um,
Penguin.
so I need to get something set up for the next segment. So why don't you give me your current thoughts? You watched the episode from Sunday night, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Um, so I want to hear your thoughts first while I finish getting
Yeah,
this.
no problem. I felt like I needed to take a shower after watching the last episode. I felt so dirty. I was like, dang, that was dark.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to go scrub this one off. It definitely opens strong, let's just say. And really just amplifies um this whole show amplifies how there's no, which it should, good guys in it, and you really just get to see the corruption and crime and the turmoil that's within Gotham.
Yep.
Now, after what happened in this last episode, if Batman doesn't show up in this next episode, they're gonna have some explaining to do. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I guess there's 8 episodes, right?
Yes, yes. So next Sunday is the finale.
Okay. Um, I yeah, I just feel like I don't know if they're gonna wrap it up, you know, or if they're gonna leave
Yeah,
the potential for a follow up to this.
I've heard there's supposed to be there's supposed to be a nice closing to this season. Like
Okay.
it's gonna be a contained story, but I think they probably do have plans for season 2. I'm sure they would, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. That's just what I've heard,
Okay.
and I didn't even mean to hear it
Um,
because I just want to be surprised because I do enjoy it so far. I think it's really well written, acted, and I think you hit the nail on the head last week that the actress that plays Oz's mom, Penguin's mom,
dude.
is probably the the and which is saying something because there's many fantastic actors and actresses in this show. She's probably her performance is stand out. Just how she's
Yeah.
able to weave back and forth between um, being cognitive to dementia and playing that so well. Man, just really good job
Yeah, it's excellent.
to say
Um,
lightly.
oh, for sure. Um, oh man, this is a 21-minute video. We probably won't be watching this whole video. Goodness gracious, I probably should have edited this.
Oh, the
um,
IGN
yeah,
one.
yeah, this one that we're gonna talk about. Yeah, we'll.
If we make it quick, we can talk about it. But if not, we can always talk about it next week because it may be.
No,
Um,
well, we can't talk about it next week. Can't-
oh,
So,
that's right. I'm
we'll
glad
see.
you reminded me of that, dude.
Yeah,
That's such a man.
we'll use it as reference. We don't have to go over the entire thing for sure.
Yeah, that's what I vote on. We can just talk about the main things that you want to talk about with it,
Oh,
rather than
for
getting into the
sure.
granular. But yeah, Penguin Man, like it was interesting though. One thing I'll say, um, it's interesting how Vic's still alive.
He sort of disappeared.
Well, I mean, in the beginning of the so spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen the last episode of Penguin, we're about to get into it. So spoilers again. This is your time. Go run
Yeah,
to your mom and go watch it. Uh,
hop ahead like 15 minutes or so. It should be good.
but how it opens with him still being alive, I was a bit surprised. It seemed a bit too convenient because I don't know. Maybe it's within Sophia not to want to drag him, but you would think, she wants so bad to get back at Oz. You would think that she would take both of them because
Y-
obviously
yeah, I guess
Oz trusts him enough to watch his mom. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
I'm not
Sophia is no dummy.
I'm not saying that this is what I believe, but I think what they're trying to go for is that she wants to hurt him and she wants something that she knows is going to do that. Um,
Yeah,
whoops.
fair point.
But I don't
And
know.
obviously his mom's going to be the real one that does that.
Yeah, for sure. So I just don't know if that's like the thing, you know, that's gonna change everything for. Oh, sorry. What I'm trying to say is that like, I don't know if Sophia believes that Vic is like important enough to do that for, because I'm not even sure if like Penguin seems to kind of care about him, but I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what their relationship is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It still sort of seems a bit,
And you never really
um,
know with him anyway.
yeah, and that sort of seems like it's on purpose. Um, sorry, give me a second. I'm trying to find this video. Why is this not? Let me see if this is correct.
But outside of that, I think that everything else was pretty well written within the episode. He disappeared, I imagine, because he's going to get all those people to go against Sophia.
Yeah.
And to talk about the ending, that I I guess I wasn't, and I should have, considering it's not the finale. Wasn't necessarily expecting to have to wait to the next episode to find out um, that clearly his mom's going to probably not last this season.
Yeah, it was weird, right? Like they set up that episode, they tease it pretty hard, and then they sort of extend it out. And I guess
I feel like in the situation with the bomb at the end,
yeah,
that I just think Oz is smart enough and wise enough to know that Sophia's probably not just going to come in there
yeah.
like that, and you would have thought that he would at least had somebody to check. But maybe I'm wrong. It's not, it seemed a bit. Sometimes there are some things that are done in this season that again I understand, and they're not the biggest thing in the world to me. But there's certain things that like I feel like this is slight. You could say miscalculation. Like
Yeah.
characters are allowed to make dumb decisions. They're allowed to do that. I feel like that's a bit slightly out of Oz just to think Sophia's just going to randomly show up there and exchange. Okay, here's your
Sure.
mom. Give me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like not assume that she's going to also be up to something. And so the bomb at the end, um, I don't know.
That didn't bother me. Like the whole like bombing the area. The only thing about it that I was sort of like, "Oh, okay," was that it seemed way bigger than it should have been.
Yes.
That explosion
Yep.
seemed way
Good
bigger.
night. She was like,
Like,
I'm not going to be like my dad, and then just like decimates it.
yeah, I don't know. It is one of those shows that like once the whole thing's over, might need to go back. Stuff that I there was a lot that I did like about it. I really do like the opening. I think that there's sort of this like sanitized things that happens with a lot of media right now, where like they're just not willing to allow the show to like go, or like the content to like go places that it needs to.
Yeah, to
Um,
this logical conclusion.
yeah, and to be honest, in a small way, and I know I always bring up Arcane, in a small way, that stuff reminds me of that because, you know, like if you, so like with Arcane, right? Because this is a little bit less of a spoiler, even though I guess we're technically spoiling some of this, but if there's like an incident where you cause the deaths of people early in your life, it's probably going to stick with you, and it's probably going to
Yep.
have some sort of impact.
Profound effect on you.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to become a villain, um, but it does mean that it's going to have a profound impact on you in the future. Like, and a lot of shows just because it's like this thing that happens with a lot of stuff where they're like, oh no, we can't dive into those subjects, and it's like, hey, why can't you have the maturity to do something like that,
Yep.
um
Because it's people not letting their characters make their logical conclusions and
yeah,
like they want to lead their character on a journey rather than letting their character lead the journey when they're writing it. Because there are certain decisions one character will make that's different from the other, and then those lead to um, therefore this happened, then therefore this happened, therefore this happened, rather than just moving on to the next point, and point.
yeah. Well, Joseph.
And one of the things Arcane does really well is driving home the theme of redemption and the heart behind that too, which is nice to see a show advocate for the concept of redemption.
Oh,
because a lot of things are nihilistic these days.
oh, for sure, dude. Okay, Watch Together's being stupid.
That's fine, dude. We could
Uh,
always save it for another time, like after Arcane.
dang, dude. We should still. Okay, we'll save the video. That'll give me some time to actually like edit it down, and we can still use Watch Together later. It keeps wanting to. I had to like download an extension, and then it's like, no, you can't use the extension. I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. But I
Oh
am.
man, they get the dynamics of a toxic mother-son relationship down really well.
Yeah, agreed. Because there's like
Dude.
a weird. She clearly lost it. After her other sons die.
Yep.
Um, and
And I was wondering if we were gonna get a scene to where she knew, or like had a strong enough suspicion. Maybe knew isn't the right word, but a strong indication that it was Oz that did it,
yeah,
or maybe not even like did it in the sense of not necessarily knowing that he did it intentionally, but like thinking that it was an accident that he caused. But so far, at least, we don't really get that. And I'm wondering if we saw that episode with his brothers, obviously to paint this picture of him of being evil from a child. Um, but if they're gonna harken back to that at all.
I don't. I don't know
With
if
his
they're gonna
mom.
do it. Yeah, I think it just broke her. Like I think you can even see it. So like all that happens, and then there's that scene where she's taking him to that club or whatever as a kid, and they go dancing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a little moment where you see her like twitch, like she's just not. It's like the beginning of that downfall for her, and they kind of um, play into that too when Sophia asks about what happened to his brothers, and it reverts her back into sort of like that schizo or like whatever whatever issue that she's got. And she starts like she doesn't even realize where she is anymore, and she's talking about like that event. So that clearly was like a profound moment for her, of how she ended up the
Yeah.
way that she was. Um, and I like that opening too, like just the way that it starts, and you're getting to see like a really early Gotham, and like Penguin as a kid, and like he's still, he's that person just much younger.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And
And who he looked up to and
yep,
why.
yep,
Like it makes they don't make any bones about it. Like he liked him he liked that guy Jack, whatever his name was, because he was a gangster.
yeah, yeah, because he wants to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like he respects that because the guy's got money, he's got influence. And it goes back to that stuff from the first episode. Is that the same guy? Do you remember that story that he tells in episode 1? Is that the
Oh,
guy? Is that the guy from the
yes,
flashback?
yes.
Um. Okay. If so, yeah. I mean that. It's like it's one of the things I really like about Penguin as a character in this. Is that he's written really well, right? Like he's a very consistent character. And as far as like villains are concerned, I guess if you're gonna I don't even know if I would call it a sympathetic villain.
No, he's definitely not
But I
sympathetic.
I like that what I would say is like they humanize him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's not, he's not like Mr. Freeze, right? he
Yeah,
is
yeah,
he is just like
he's not
he's a
humanized in
dude.
that sense.
Yeah.
He's definitely evil and a villain.
And
Like
they
with Mr. Freeze, he like there's more sympathy
sure.
to him.
But he's also not like he's not as comic booky, and
Yeah.
I like that they're like, okay, well, he was a kid, and here's the, and that stuff. I'm like, all right, that's cool. And I'm not that side of DC. I'm not uber familiar with. But I like what they did. I like what they're doing with his character. And that regardless of his intentions with like locking his brothers away like he did,
They kind of leave it open. I do like the fact that they leave that open ended a bit.
Yeah, because like I kind of fall on the side that like he just got emotional and did something, and then like he as so it's like what I think they're kind of saying, like the way that I kind of interpreted it was that he he didn't mean for it originally, but like as time went on, you can kind of tell that he just doesn't care,
Yeah.
you know? And it actually really colors the way that he talks about his brothers in previous episodes. Because the assumption was that, because we know that they're dead. We know that his brothers are dead. And then what the assumption is up until that reveal is that they got involved with the wrong people and were killed.
Yeah.
Which isn't the case. So I
Not
thought
at all.
I thought they did a really good job with that. And yeah, you're right. There's some stuff in the show's not perfect for sure. There's some maybe like little questionable things here and there about the decisions of individuals, but overall, I'm still really happy with it. I think it's still pretty darn consistent, and the characters seem to be other than the one you said about Sophia, like there's probably an argument to be made of like why she like left Vic alive, and we will never know the answer to that. I don't think, other than it's just plot armor. He's necessary.
Right.
He's necessary for whatever's going to happen in the next episode. So yeah, just kind of had to be that way. But yeah, man, I'm still like overall still happy. I have recommended it some to people, and
It's definitely a full recommendation.
yeah, I just want to see where this last episode goes, so I know like fully, because it's not gonna be for everyone. But and the funny thing is one of I thought about is, if Oswald's in if they don't kill him, and he's in the next movie, it's just gonna be really funny because he's so crass and he like curses all the time. So to go back to like a PG-13 movie and see him in that, you're gonna be like, oh, this is. I'm curious if that's what they plan to do, right? Like if he's in the next one, like
Surely they're not going to kill him.
I wouldn't think so.
That would really shock me if they.
It would be weird to kill off a Batman villain in a way like that, where like Batman's just not even involved.
Yeah, that would be a bad decision.
Not that Batman would kill him, but like it's not even in a mainline movie or whatever. So yeah, that would be I think a little bit weird, but yeah, man, I've been telling some people I think they might like it, and yeah, it's been pretty impressive to me.
Completely agree.
And mostly a shock. Like I don't know. I think we could talk about it because it's a good segue into this discussion of criticism and all that. But IGN I think gave the first episode like a 5.
A penguin?
Of Penguin, yeah.
Why,
bro? I don't know.
Why?
I was looking through some of their stuff.
Who is giving what? Oh my gosh!
I know. Hang on,
What are they smoking, dude?
I'm gonna try to pull it up. I'm pretty sure that they gave it a 5, and this is like, dude, we talk about this a lot, but I it's just something that I like talking about, sort of like reviews and criticism, and so the sort of the way that it needs to be looked at. And I've been doing some stuff, and I found something that I had like written down a while ago. That the idea behind like a review or criticism or like whatever you want to call that topic is really broken down into 2 specific parts. And sorry, I'm pulling it up right now because I wasn't originally going to talk about this, but it just kind of started going in that direction.
No worries.
Okay, so you have analysis, which is pretty much defined as the process of applying analytical methods to existing data of a specific type. So your analysis of like what we're doing with the Penguin, or what we're doing with Arcane, where we're analyzing it, we're looking at characters, we're looking at story, we're looking at how all of that stuff is essentially combined in order for the story to work, right? So that's
Right.
how you're analyzing it. When we sit down, when we watch something, regardless of who you are, like everybody does this. When you watch something to one degree or another, you're analyzing it. Some of us have just now trained ourselves to do this more, for a
Yes.
lack of a better way of putting it. And then some people, they're not necessarily analyzing things as hard, but there's still stuff that when you're watching stuff, you will analyze it, and if someone points out to you like, hey, wasn't that kind of weird? You'll go, yeah, now that you mention it, that was a little bit weird. So it starts with the analysis, and then you evaluate the content based on that. So like when we talk about trailers, right? We're analyzing a trailer. This is something that we get criticized for a lot. It's like, well, it's not like this happened a lot with Rings of Power. It's like, or Witcher, or actually, pick your poison. We analyze it, and then we evaluate it based on what we currently have the ability to analyze. Like we don't have the
Mhm.
full season. We're going off what we have,
To this
and
point.
yeah, and it's based off of certain things. The plot, the characters, the dialogue, even themes, acting. You could say like general design, so like music, even the way that they set up like the world building with how everything actually looks from a design standpoint, practical effects, versus computer generated effects, and how all of that stuff melts together. Like there's all of these pieces and all these things that you're analyzing while you're watching that, and then you're taking all of that and you're evaluating it, and then that's when we come on here and we're like, well, this is why like Rings of Power isn't good. And some of it comes from past experience with that. You could call it expertise if you want, though I am careful with that stuff, because sometimes people like to throw around their expertise and they're feeding you a load of crap.
Yeah, I don't think it's up to me to call myself an expert in something. You know what I mean? Like that's up to other
Well,
people.
that's fair enough. Yeah, I think
In
that
this regard.
if you and I are like talking about what it kind of takes to fall into that category, a lot of it is just like time spent with it. Like
That's a good point.
how much time did you spend with, like, say, say we were gonna have, we'll take Arcane or whatever, right? I've watched it enough that I have a certain level of expertise talking about the show, talking about character dynamics, talking about the plot, how all of that like melts together, potentially where it's going in the future. And it's just because like I've watched the show and I've looked into a lot of the stuff that the creators are talking about with it, and you go like, yeah, like based on a lot of these things, the stuff that you have literally analyzed, this is probably where this stuff is going. This is why it's so good. These are the reasons. And when all of that is like said and done, it's like the audience kind of decides like if the evaluation of everything that we're doing is something that they are on the same page with, if they disagree with us in places. Take like those times, like talk about like John Wick and really only liking the first one and thinking the rest of them really aren't that good. And like people get upset, but they can't deny sort of like the analysis of John Wick
Right.
and where the franchise has
Did you
gone.
hear, by the way, where they're on their fifth movie now? Right? It's going to be John Wick
Ooh,
5.
I think, yeah, well, yeah, because I
Well,
think,
I know the next one's going to be called John Wick Peanut.
oh, got
If
him,
only, dude.
bro. That'd be so funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, like that's kind of where all of that comes from. So, I think that
What convinced you to vote for Trump? A squirrel.
A squirrel. I'm gonna try to go over here to these TV reviews from them. Now, I don't know if it's an excuse, and you and I, yeah, dude, like whoever is reviewing the Penguin,
I got to hear that reasoning. I got to hear that reasoning.
I just
why,
okay,
like,
so like,
and what I mean is not necessarily even reading the article, but just talking to this person and just asking why. Like, I could understand if someone said, I don't like the crudeness, I don't like the crassness, I don't like how dark it is. I completely get that. It's just not your cup of tea, right? Like, but I think that's a better way to say it than giving it a 5. It's not a 5 level show, because it's not like technically
well,
it's not a 5.
and we
Like,
have
I
to,
could sit here.
and we have to.
That's why I don't judge horror movies, because I don't like them. They're not my cup of tea.
You also have to understand that a 5 on the IGN scale is is mediocre.
Yeah.
This is their description of it. It says this is a kind of bland, unremarkable. They're doing this under games, but like you have to understand, like this is like how this is a generalized thing for them, unless they have a whole different scale for movies, which would probably be stupid. But it says this is a bland, unremarkable game, quote unquote. We've mostly forgotten about a day after we finish playing. A mediocre isn't something you should spend your time or money on if you consider either to be precious. But they'll pass the time if you have nothing better to do. So they're basically like, so the way that like they are essentially describing Penguin, because like just scrolling through, they've given an 8 to an episode. Yeah, here I think this is the first episode. It looks like they, after Oswald spends 4 episodes cutting a path to discretion. Yeah, they're trying to do it all in 8 episodes. So basically, they gave the preview of what they got. I don't know. They're basically saying that the Penguin is a mess, but sometimes an entertaining mess.
Yeah, I bet.
Rumble too quickly to make a lasting impression to the bitter and Oswald. I mean, this
That's
is
funny.
it's pretty long. Yeah, mediocre. The Penguin puts Colin Farrell back in the Batman's transformation makeup, but it fails to build a compelling mob drama around it.
I disagree.
Hang on. Yeah, I mean, I do too. I think most people do. I'm kind of curious what, and this is so one of the things about this is like when you look into it, right? Because people get upset. And I still think rightfully so, because I feel like there should be some uniformity around the way that if IGN was being honest, they. Oh, did this guy review The Acolyte? I think this guy would say that. Let's see what he gave The Acolyte. That's really funny.
And superb drama.
Did he
Keeps
do
you entertained at all
episode
times.
1, 4 through 4? Eric Goldman, narrated by Eric. Oh no, it looks like he just did the narration for it. They do a lot of weird. Oh, holy moly! Sorry if that came through. That was just really loud.
No, nothing came through.
Sorry, listeners. They might not have heard that, even though you didn't. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like they gave the. I don't even think you could say that if it's the first half of the show. I don't even think you could just like. You can't call that mediocre.
Yeah.
I don't.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense to me. Man, Agatha has been getting like 7s and 8s and 9s. Let me see. Wait, hold on. Let's look at TV. So Agatha's full season review got an 8.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Rings of Power was getting 8s.
Yeah, of course it was.
Even though I think their full review, they ended up giving the thing a 7 or a 6. You know,
I'm sure they did.
Which is crazy considering. Yeah, they gave season 2 episodes 7 and 8.
That's still a favorable review for IGN.
Oh well, then here's episode the Penguin episode 1 review, After Hours, they gave that an 8. So then what was this other thing? The Penguin spoiler-free review. See, this is confused. Okay, leads into some other problems. It's like they're doing every individual episode, they're writing a review for it. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week, and I think part of the reason that they're doing some of that is for the clicks. They
Rating.
Yeah, their whole goal, I think, is trying to get people onto their site, because it's not. I think that's how they're maintaining like advertising dollars, unless you have the Brave engine where it just blocks all that stuff for you automatically, and you don't have to worry about it. But a lot of this came up because we are like, they're a meme at this point for just like giving everything a 7. And I had told you, and the video that I'm hoping we'll eventually get to, where the idea is that stuff doesn't get below a 7 because of the quote-unquote complexity of making the thing. So if they consider something of it's supposed to be like high quality, right? So like, even take House of the Dragon season 2. It got a 7 from them, like the full review did. But I don't know if IGN really believes that's a 7. So let's see. So a 7 for them is good. It means you're watching or playing something that's like time well spent. Could it be better? Absolutely. Maybe it lacks ambition, has a few technical bumps in the road, or is too repetitive, but we came away from it happy nonetheless. We think you will too. That's what they consider a 7. But
a few bumps in the road, David.
Yeah. A 6 for them is okay. And I
guess you could say that okay is better than all right.
Sure. I mean, like, it's semantics.
We're playing
you're playing semantics with most of this. I've told you before, like, I'm still not a fan of numbers. I don't mind throwing a number out there for people. Like, I don't want them to really take the number uber seriously, because it's not an end-all be-all. Like, you can't really get across what you want by just saying, like, yeah, it's a 5. And for me, a 5 is the middle of the road. Like, if you're going to have a scale that's 1 through 10, you got to use the scale properly. And IGN doesn't really do that. They use 7, 8, 9, and 10. And they've been giving out some 10s recently, like 9s and 10s recently. Like, they're going out of style. And Colin Moriarty, who used to work for them, he said that he gave out 110. I think he gave out 110 his entire time working there, and I think he worked there for like 5 or 6 years.
Oh wow,
like a pretty long time. And this was back in the day.
It has to be an exclusive group. Like, probably the only show and movie I've seen since we've started doing this podcast that I would potentially give a 10 to would be Arcane. Yeah. And even then, I just want to give them a 9.9 just for having Imagine Dragons literally within the show.
9.9, taking a point off for Imagine Dragons. Is this the new one?
But I'm not going to do it because it's too good.
10. So their games that they consider like masterpieces are God of War 2018, Last of Us, Legends of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, that's just the ones they're using as examples. I would be curious. I don't know if there's a way to look up what they've given 10s to as far as, like... I'll just click on movies and see if there's anything... If I hit Editor's Choice... I don't know. Games is really like their bread and butter. I mean, they have given, in the last, like... Okay, so none of these are 10s. But they've been giving out 9s to, like... I mean, they gave Veilguard a 9, the new Dragon Age game. And I've watched quite a few hours of that now. I'm like, not a chance, dude. The dialogue in it is so cringy. It's like, it's not even just the sort of like the controversial stuff.
Yeah.
Just like the characters never shut up. And they have to comment on every little thing going on around them. It's like there can never be.
That's actually pretty accurate to probably the creator's life.
It's definitely possible. Uh, that's funny. They do comic reviews too. Um, Not a lot of movie reviews, or is that just editor's choices? Oof. Doesn't look like they've been giving out very many good reviews to
Donald
movies
Trump.
lately. Some 8s in here.
So what Hallmark movie? Or what's that new channel that took over Hallmark?
Oh, did Hallmark get like bought out or something?
No, there's all the Hallmark people went to a different channel. It's like GP something, I want to say, last time I heard.
Hmm.
Because Hallmark went
Oh.
woke. Didn't you know,
Oh,
David?
no, dude. Bro.
You're a big Hallmark fan.
Yeah, I am definitely the audience for that. They gave Alien Romulus an 8.
Well, that's actually not bad.
That is, what's their 8? Their 8 is great.
Yeah.
Leaves us with something outstanding to
Some
remember.
people really like Romulus. For IGN, that's not bad.
What are you talking about?
Oh no, I'm thinking of the last one. What's the last one? I thought the last one was Alien Romulus.
Yeah, the
What's
one that came out like a month or two ago.
Yeah. I know some people who really liked it.
I do.
mean, I'm just saying.
I do too. That's not
Oh, I thought you were saying no. It was worse than that.
an 8. Yeah, it's definitely worse than an 8. That movie is a 4 at best. It gets points specifically because it looks good, but that's all it really gets points for.
I still haven't seen it yet.
Romulus is like a shell. Like they literally took the plot of Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection and mashed it into one movie, and then had no idea how the like mechanically the aliens work.
That's funny.
That's like the entire movie, and it's really funny because I had a conversation with a guy at work the other day because he was like, "Oh yeah, have you seen Alien Romulus? I thought it was pretty cool." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I didn't."
That's kind of how you have to lead those conversations.
Yeah, it's how I do a lot of that stuff. And he was like, "But if they dig, I'll tell them. Like, I'll at least go into a little bit." And he's like, "Yeah, but it was cool." And I was like, "Cool, man. Like, but it's not good. Like, it just isn't." There's some of the stuff that I haven't seen. I mean, they gave Borderlands a 3. I mean, I think
fair.
I think sometimes they're sort of like,
Probably still too high.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that a movie. Let's see. So what are they? A 3 for them is awful. A 2 is painful, and a 1 is unbearable. So like, this is the thing is their scale is weird.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it before as far as like I'm concerned, but like you get a 5 for me is like kind of passing. That is more for me of like a okay, I didn't hate it. I wasn't in love with what they did, but it's kind of like middle of the road.
It's very much in line with middle of the road.
A little bit generic, maybe.
And we rarely give 5s out. I feel like we're typically either slightly above it or slightly below it when we rate movies. So
you're a lot more likely to get a 4 or a 6.
Yep.
And I think that's fine, but I think the whole scale needs to be used if you're going to use one. And I think it needs to be a little more definitive than the way that they do this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Like an okay sounds more like what a 5 should be than a mediocre. And then if something like a 4 is bad for them. So if it's bad, then it's just bad. Right? And there's got to be more nuance to it than that. But like, what's really the difference like between bad and awful and then painful and unbearable? Like the numbers, like you can kind of understand to a degree. like a 1 for me would probably be something that's just utterly broken, you know?
Hmm.
I you mm, I mean, like season 2 of Rings of Power comes pretty dang close.
Oh, it's completely broken.
I
Like
I'm
that
trying.
show is legitimately, if you could rate something, it's the, if I'm being fair, it's a solid 1 of a show at top. That's top for that show is 1. I
Yeah,
could understand giving that show all zeros.
I could give season 1 probably a 2 just because there's like maybe a few little things with the dwarves in there.
Yep.
Um, there might be some other stuff that I'm misremembering from season 1.
But season 2, it's
Dude, just a pile of
season 1 is
mess.
broken, but season 2 is truly just
It's nonsensical. It's so like they I don't know if you can call it copywriting, but they straight up just like steal stuff
yeah,
from other dude. Okay, you want to guess? You know what I found out, and I don't know if I'd ever be able to prove it. You remember? You know how they like call the elves knife ears in Rings of Power?
yeah.
You know where that comes from?
No,
Dragon Age.
really?
Yeah, I was watching a Dragon Age Origins videos. The game came out in like I think 2009 or 10, and the elves in that are like lower class citizens. They were like they were like enslaved, and then they got their freedom, but they still are basically like lower class. And certain groups of people in that refer to them as knife ears. And I'm like, no way. And I'm like, no way they stole this from Dragon Age. Because like that's not something like that I think you just make up.
Yeah.
And after everything that we've seen with the way that that show was handled, someone had to poach that from Dragon
Well,
Age.
they stole the whole elf maiden plot with Sauron, that Celebrimbor's elf maiden,
Yeah.
and then the whole her getting deceived, quote unquote, by Sauron from the Lord of the Rings Online, that storyline. So it really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, just poaching other people's I mean like it's yeah, it's plagiarism.
Yep.
I think almost like straight
And
up in some
plagiarizing just straight up Peter
yeah.
Jackson too.
Yeah, they took something that someone else did and slightly changed it to make it their own. And we're sitting here going, hold on. So yeah, man, honestly, yeah, I think I could with us talking about it a little bit more, I think I could definitively give season 2 a 1 out of 10 without any issue. Just nonsensical mess to the point of plagiarizing other people's content. Like it's just broken, you know.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
So yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know how I really feel about. I think I always go back and forth, and I always kind of land on the side of like I'd rather just talk about it, you know, analyze, evaluate, and then give like yeah, it's worth your time, or no, it's not, or you might like this if you're into this, but like I don't know how like ultimately how helpful numbers are to people. Like I know a lot of
Yeah.
people that used to just like they would go to IGN reviews and they just scroll to find the number and then be like, "Oh, they gave it this." And that's like it, you know?
Yeah.
And man, I've been like sometimes I wonder sort of like we're like I overthink things all the time. And I'm always like, "Man, like I wonder how like Joseph and I are doing as far as like the content and the show and how I kind of feel about like the direction that we're going in or whatever." And then I watch other people's content every once in a while and I go, we're fine.
Yeah.
I'm like we're
Completely
doing
understand.
I'm like we're doing all right. It's like oof. There's always room for improvement, always room to continue moving in an upward direction, but man, just like on a baseline, I'm like, okay, we're in a good spot.
100%.
Oh my word! Oh my word! Yeah, man. So like, I like talking about this every once in a while because I think it gives us a little bit of, and the audience like a little better idea of like where Headspace is at when we're sort of like evaluating the stuff that we're talking about. And I like kind of having some sort of like definitional stuff in there, like talking about analysis and evaluation. And I think it helps me get my head around some of the stuff that we're talking about a little bit more. Not that I'm losing the plot or whatever, but I think it just helps sometimes to be like, oh yeah, this is like, yeah, we're doing this. Like, yeah, we're doing that. Like, oh, awesome. Like that confidence with the stuff that we're talking about, and honestly trying to stay somewhat objective. I think I had mentioned this last week, but when you start to get up into that like 9 or 10 range for me, like if you hit an 8, the reason you'll probably hit into that level of like a 9 or a 10 for me is maybe a little bit less objective than an 8 would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's just certain things that I find myself sort of like attracted to in like media. Like I was saying, if you're kind of in that like fantasy sci-fi like genre type stuff, I'm probably if you're getting into the 8 realm and you're doing everything just like masterfully, moving up is going to be potentially a case of the type of thing it is, or it's at least going to be easier for me to be like recommend or give like a 9 or 10. Whereas like I think stuff like crime dramas or just stuff that I'm not as in love with, but that I'll still give a chance. You have to, I think, work just a little bit harder. Like it's got to be really, really good. Even though I'm willing to give like just about any genre a chance for the most part. I do as much as I can want to stay like objective about that, and call out like the stuff that's really, really good. I mean, if your show's got good character writing, you're already like way ahead of the game as far as I'm concerned, regardless of like what it is. There just may be like a something about it that I'm not fully clicking with, and it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not 100% clicking with me.
Right.
All right. Well, is that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
You good? Awesome, dude. All right. Well, we will be reviewing episode 1, 2, and 3 of Arcane Season 2 this time next week.
If we're still here.
Oh. He jokes, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Yeah,
gotcha on that one.
Well, man, totally just threw me for a loop. Yeah, we'll get through Arcane, and then the world can blow up or whatever. But yeah, we will be back reviewing that next week. I hope that everyone has a wonderful week. Everyone remains safe this week, regardless of world events. And until next time, y'all take it easy.
See ya.